This podcast is protected under the laws of the United States and other countries. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or exhibition may result in civil liability, criminal prosecution, and the wrath of the tall man.
Boy!
Hey, let's talk about you, the ID10T community events at ID10T.com, like Russ Stevens, a.k.a.
Cat Bus Russ,
who has started a podcast called 90 for Chill, which Russ says is dedicated to movies with a runtime between 74 and 99 minutes, the time frame that I feel is ideal. Russ, I could not agree with you more. That is a fantastic idea. Russ goes on to say there are times you need a cinematic fix but don't have time for the latest Scorsese masterpiece or offering from a comic book universe. There's also times when you need a conclusion to prevent a binge costing you a whole night. My guest and I try to follow these guidelines as we chat up features that are definitely worth your time and are beyond easy to make time for. 90 for Chill, the podcast, can be found on all major podcast platforms at 90forchill.com, and that's spelling out 90, Ninety, 4 FOR, chill. So there you go. Thank you so much for sharing, Russ. Really great idea for a podcast. Events at ID10T.com for everyone else.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Now, you probably didn't have many scenes with some of the actors who have passed but are legendary in terms of the View Skinnerverse. Your Alan Rickmans, your George Carlins. Any stories about them?
Oh, absolutely. George is one of my... if there was a Mount Rushmore, going back to a callback to Mount Rushmore, if there's a Mount Rushmore of comedy, he's definitely on it. And I remember me and him, we were, the whole Cardinal Glick and the Catholicism wow scenes, all that, were shot pretty much the beginning of the production. Those were the scenes we were shooting first. So I happened to be in the makeup trailer in my chair, and he was in his chair further, like 2 chairs down in the makeup trailer. And we're all just, as makeup's being done and hair and stuff. He was always a friendly cat. And he was like, "So, son, where are you coming in from?" Because he knew that I was from the original Clerks. He's like, "I really enjoyed your movie there," and stuff. I'm like, "Oh, so where are you coming in from?" "Oh," I told him, "I'm coming from Jersey, but I'm originally from the Bronx." "Really?" I said, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, you went to the same high schools as my brother, because they went to St. Raymond's and St. Cardinals." And so we talked about that. We talked about the Bronx, talked about Upper Manhattan, his times living there, and it was great. And at that time, he had just released his book, Brain Droppings. A great book, by the way. And so I brought that we had shot out in Pittsburgh, by the way. Dogma is shot out in the Pittsburgh area. And so I brought it with me knowing that I was going to be working with him, so I'd get him to sign it, to which I told him this. I said, "By the way, I bought and read your Brain Dropping books, and I love it." He said, "Oh, thank you. And he's like, "You want to take a photo?" And at the time, this is before digital cameras, when hair and makeup and wardrobe would have you all set, they take what's called a continuity photo on Polaroids. And they'd take a photo and they'd punch a hole in it and they'd have it on a ring, so that when you're doing a scene, they'd write on it scene 24, Cardinal Glick, or scene 25, Grant Hicks, that's the character I played, the news reporter. And they'd be able to see when you're ready to go to camera, because you may shoot over multiple days. They want to make sure you looked exactly like you did yesterday, and they'll take the Polaroid and put it next to you and go, "Okay, oh wait, you forgot your ring," or whatever it was. They want to make sure everything's right. So he's like, "Do you want to take a photo?" I was like, "Sure." So the hair and makeup people were like, "Oh, we'll get the Polaroid, we'll take a photo together." But at the time, Polaroid was trying to be hip and cool, and they did these long strip Polaroids instead of the regular shake it like a Polaroid picture Polaroid. And so that's what we did. We took a picture, and it's him as Cardinal Glick and his all Cardinal finery, and me as Grant Hicks with that goofy mustache, which, by the way, I had the Anchorman look before Ron Burgundy, just saying.
You did.
Just saying. And then we took this photo, and then in the book, he's like from one Bronx boy to another George Carlin. And so that photo of us together and that book, the photo is the bookmark of the book.
Cool. Very
So
cool.
it's something that he always touches me. He was so missed because, funny enough, years later, I was in Pittsburgh at a horror con, and it just so happened to be going to bed, and I would fall to bed with like the local news radio just playing as white noise to fall asleep to. And I remember it's like 1 or so in the morning, and this is breaking news. Iconic comedic legend George Carlin has passed away at the age of blah 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 blah. And I was like, "What?" And I just so happened to be in Pittsburgh, the same place where I made Dogma. And so I had texted Kevin on my phone. I was like, Kevin, have you? He's like, yes, I'm crying as I'm typing this. I'm writing a piece for Variety about it. And I'm like, oh my God. He's like, oh, I gotta go because I gotta finish this piece. I'm like, absolutely, absolutely. But it just struck us because he was such a, in his later years especially, he was taking care of himself. Like when we were shooting Dogma, he was going to gym at the hotel every morning, and I would catch him coming back up the elevator, after doing the workout and stuff, and he was drinking red wine, because, there was this big thing back in the 90s, like, wine is great for the heart, and blah, blah, blah. You know how it goes back and forth. The coffee is awesome for you, and then coffee is terrible for you. It gives you aneurysms. Like, you couldn't believe what was coming in the news back then. It was like, this is great, this is bad. Eggs are horrible, eggs are great. So, he was trying to do his best, and unfortunately he left us way too soon. And same thing with Alan Rickman, another guy who was amazing. First of all, not as tall as I thought he was. Like,
yeah, he does get very tall air.
It was definitely weird. It was just like, Hans Gruber, you're more like Prince Humperdinck.
Wait, about him and Danny Trejo.
Yeah.
Like, you feel larger than
Uncle, I can't make fun of Uncle Danny.
No, not making fun of him at all.
He'll cut a bitch.
Yes, he will. No matter his stature, he will cut.
No, I love
I
Uncle
just
Danny.
thought he was 7 feet tall.
Yeah. And I think he just had like a hip replacement or something recently.
Oh,
And so,
now I feel bad.
Uncle Danny's great. I love Uncle Danny. Danny is awesome. He was in Jason Mewes' movie that he first directed called Madness and the Method, to which I was a part of it as well, which was a lot of fun working with Jay as a director. But Danny, I love Danny to death. But getting back to Alan Rickman, I was having trouble at one point there's a huge monologue in the beginning of Dogma that I, as the news reporter Grant Hicks, is explaining what plenary indulgence is about, when you take this church and you're redoing it and blah, 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 and plenary indulgence, that if you pass through the doorways of a newly, christened church, so to speak, all your sins are wiped away. And that's the idea for Bartleby and Loki to go, oh my God, we can get back into heaven by just walking through at this certain time. And I was just having take after take of me, because it was a mouthful, only because the day before I had found out that a good friend of mine's wife had passed away from breast cancer, and it was like feeling it just threw me that night to hear this the night before filming the next day. And so I was just having issues and cutting Brian, and so Kevin was like, cut, we're gonna give Brian for like 5-10 minutes. And I was like, and I felt the pressure, it was whole production on me. And here's Alan Rickman, who's just on set, he wasn't shooting, he was just hanging out on set. And I remember him coming over and he goes, don't worry, mate, it happens to the best of us. And I just thought that was really cool for him to take his time out to come over to me and go, hey mate, don't worry about it, it happens to the best of us, just take a minute. I'm like, oh, thank you. And I thought to myself, he thinks I'm one of him.
He does.
Yeah, one of us, we're one of us. That's
Quality.
awesome. So now my head's swimming like, I just got complimented. And I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta remember these lines again. All right, hey, give me a little, leave me alone. So, Alan was a great guy. Alan, I didn't spend enough time to know him as like Jay and Kevin did. But if anybody's ever seen interviews with Kevin talks about how fascinated Alan was with Jason Mewes. Like, he loved just this free-spirited way that Jason Mewes had. So, rest in peace, the great Alan Rickman and George Carlin, two people that left us way too soon. Thank you for the question.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Thank you for checking out I Dig Crazy Flicks with Catbus Russ. I am your host, Catbus Russ, and I hope you enjoyed that little question Q&A I got asked with Brian O'Halloran from movies such as Clerks, Dogma, Clerks 2, Clerks 3, Mallrats, so much of the View-esque universe. And, I'm working towards getting that C&D, just trying to figure out if I'm not getting in trouble, I'm not doing something right, and there's so many means of trouble that I have to avoid right now. So give me secretly recording audio from panels, I guess. Well, thank you for checking this out, and obviously I did make it to day 3 of GalaxyCon Des Moines, and, I ended up having a good bit of fun. Honestly, I was just there, I had 4 buttons left to give away, promote the podcast, so I figured I'll go and just see what's happening there, pay $20 for parking, since I didn't trust the Embassy Suites to, just let me stay in the lot the rest of the day. Checkout was at noon, so... And, definitely don't trust those guys after I lost one of my stuffed cats there. Surely, well, maybe I undertipped, but I did tip housekeeping. And judging that there was shredded cheese in a chair, which was like a ergonomic desk chair, and then the curtain for the shower, actually, the rod went out 6 inches. It was curved. It was a straight tub, constant dripping sound from the toilet. No water anywhere, so it was just, I'm not necessarily going to try that one. Hopefully now that I'm at GalaxyCon, getting a relationship going with them, I can get into that Hilton with the walkway just across the street from the EMC Insurance Expo Center, the Iowa Convention Center. Lots of different names, but I digress. So I got there. I wasn't going to make the... I thought about skipping just because, I wasn't going to make the Josie and the Pussycat reunion with Tara Reid and Rachel A. Cook. But, I saw that Brian O'Halloran was doing a panel. And, any chance to hear from the Kevin Smith clan is one I should jump at. So, and it was a fun panel. He was very, again, I'm the only guy who got him to let the F-bomb fly, which is funny because he was like, cover your kids' ears and such. And there were stories like that, like Jason Mewes tricking Rosario Dawson to... ask for motivation about this scene from Alexander, the sex scene you were having with Colin Farrell. And how he got her to fall for that twice on the set of Clerks 2. So, but he was very cool, and he's busier than I thought. I don't watch a lot of TV, obviously. He's on a game show called The Floor, where I think it's the one Rob Lowe hosts, and I think they drop people through a floor if they get questions wrong or they lose their battle of knowledge. And talking about another reality show he was on, a reality game show in a vein of Amazing Race. I'm going to go and find that while I'm rambling. So it's great that he's just he's a working actor. I really should have asked him since when we were, during that question I asked, he talked about Danny Trejo working with Jason Mewes on the feature, on Mewes' debut feature about, about directing, because Jeff Anderson has directed a movie. He played Randall, and so it's interesting to see that Brian hasn't got a directing credit, at least on IMDb. I was looking before I got up to the question, and it's just you want to, I think, good questions. Honestly, go and talk to John Barrowman about that. He just wants to be asked fun questions, not about what your favorite thing is, what your favorite film you've worked on is, what's what was this guy like? And okay, granted, I asked what George Carlin and Alan Rickman were like, but that's totally different than just trying to put them on the spot. What was your method and all that stuff? So, hey, somehow I get the obscenities, and that just means I'm asking the right questions, I suppose. And when I was at that panel, I don't know if it was Jess McCord who asked the first question of the panel. I asked the third, but I took a look back, and he was sitting there, sitting in. I may have came in late to the panel. I made the joke to the audience. Once I walked in, I counted heads and said, "Okay, we're 18 people short of the ideal number here," and I had to explain to somebody, okay, what's 18 plus 19? All right, yeah, 37, and his girlfriend got it. and it's just fun to, play around like that. That's so I guess that's kind of my presence. I could be a warm-up act for these cons, I suppose. So, maybe if I get my legal stuff straightened out, I should try doing some open mics. I probably feel comfortable at the Jukebox in Peoria, but I hear great things about the space. So, just to just to try get into a flow, dare I say. But the show that Brian was talking about was Fireball Run, where it kind of played into the fact that it was his season of this show on Amazon Prime was done in Iowa, in the Dakotas, and how it's a great project because they incorporate trying to find lost kids, and I think they got a 30% success rate with that. So great stuff that Brian is doing. So I ran in the Jess, and we got up close because GalaxyCon on their Flickr account you can buy the panel pictures where the guests go and sit back with the go and take a selfie with the crowd, and so we just plot our asses right down because the next panel in that room was the Inglorious Trexperts talking, their podcasters, talking to Brent Spiner, and it was a fun panel because Brent Spiner did not talk about Star Trek at all. I mean, the most fun we got was him talking about his memoir, which he wrote as a work of fiction, and they kind of said, well, I didn't want to just say I was born of this, my grandparents, when they got to Ellis Island, and he said that's what Patrick did. And he definitely recommends Sir Patrick Stewart's book, but it was fun seeing an old clip from the original Night Court with him playing a country bumpkin who just him and his wife ended up causing a few chickens to explode as they were setting up an incubator powered by propane. So, and it's kind of appropriate since he's a Texan. I didn't know that. I don't because I was not a big TNG guy. I did watch when I I kind of got into a practice, but it was a syndicated show, so the time slot could bounce on Fox 43 out of Bloomington. So, I just never got into a rhythm, and maybe I saw too many Wesley Crusher episodes, dare I say. So there weren't any questions from the audience. The questions about movies, my mom would have loved it because they talked about Out to Sea, which he had fun doing with Martin Landau and Jack Lemmon, and fun stories about how Martin Landau really knew how to push his way around with directors, dare I say, and a good story about. Sorry. Sorry, something got in my throat. It's been a tough day. I still got to work at my old reliable job, and then had to do some legal research, and then my AC has gone out in my apartment. We thought we had it fixed. It is not. It's a good 84 degrees. I was actually visited by one of my best friends, maybe my best friend. She's not Danny Daniels, but Allie Higgins of the old Allie's Accessory Shop on Etsy's Trash Feature Reviews. She thought Ava needed some cat food and some more litter, and it's like, well, and Ava didn't tell me that Allie was only cleaning 2 of her litter boxes. We have 3. We had Skimbleshanks for a while, so. But I should have told Allie, with that kind of money spent on a, probably $20, that you could have just signed up for I Dig Crazy Flicks Patreon. That's patreon.com/I Dig Crazy Flicks, where for $3 a month You get yourself a shout out on each episode as long as you subscribe, or maybe a little longer if I'm not keeping track of the subscriber count. So with that said, let me thank Tim Bates. You can find him on the podcast feed. 4 episodes about Charles Band's Bloodsport in Space, better known as Arena, and the 1988 Kevin S. Tenney horror classic comedy Night of the Demons. And, of course, my good friend, former backstage interviewer, contributor to the backstage interviewer of AAW and contributor to the Wrestling Compadres Slamcast back in the day, the Scoops Daily. Aside from that shout out, they also receive a waterproof sticker to put on whatever they please. Of course, you come to my business place of work, you're going to know that I did crazy flicks on all my water bottles and other accessories. And they also get access to the original Podbean feed of 90forchill.com, the podcast. So you can see how I've developed into a fine podcaster. If that's not enough, thinking of Ava the Queen Kitty and what Allie did for her today, aside from dealing with my bitching about how my life has gone to shit right now, is, $3 a month is all I'm asking, and that gets Ava the Queen Kitty 3 cans of cat food. Emphasis on the fact that she's the Queen Kitty, so royalty should be respected. Am I wrong? So at least we got the Patreon stuff out of the way with that. And so we had the story about working on Out to Sea, and then the Jack, and even some stuff about Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau's relationship. So if you want to hear that stuff, I'm not going to go and spoil too much more of it. Go to the Inglorious Trexperts podcast to hear those tales. But very cool. I almost got myself on stage because the lights were so bright. Brett Spiner was like, I need something to cover it. Anybody have a visor they haven't worn today, or a ball cap they haven't worn today? That freshly bought. And I said, I have an umbrella. And, I was about to try getting on stage. I was like, no. So, always be prepared, people. So now I'm going to learn to carry a fresh wrapped ball cap with me. So you can come and be the savior at a convention. So, yeah, it ended up being a lot of... I didn't stick around after that. I went down to the floor just to look around, see if there's anything. And as I say, it was kind of a lackluster. I had brought my Ultra Saver, my most pricey one of those pandemic purchases. And, no, there was no Ultra Saver, so I need to figure out how to get those batteries changed in it. And, not at GalaxyCon Des Moines. We will see about GalaxyCon St. Louis. I have been approved to do my panels there. Both I Did Crazy Flicks presents 90 for Chill the podcast, and the 1985 triple threat match, Schwarzenegger versus Stallone versus the Cannon Group. It's just now an issue, though. I can't make all 3 days, so I did inform them of that. So hopefully they'll still let me in. I did book a hotel room, or if I get that rejection letter, it can easily be canceled. But as of right now, it's GalaxyCon St. Louis. I'll be there October 11th and 12th until further notice. So, and hopefully I get to see some of those vendors who came up from St. Louis to Chicago for Fan Expo. I wouldn't blame them if they went for Chronic Con that weekend in Rosemont as well. But the Geek Punk store, they're supposed to be based out of St. Louis when I talk to them. So hopefully I get to buy some more patches from them and maybe some stickers. My attitude right now, well, for my own safety, I better not get too liberal with my bumper stickers, dare I say. So, yeah, fun times were had. Regardless, it was great getting to hang out with Jess again. Kind of just organically. We got a selfie. I haven't found it yet on his feed, but I will be looking. And really worthwhile trip. As I say, I'm approved for St. Louis, so I must be doing something right. And thank you very much to everybody who came out to my panels, and Jess McCord's A24 Horror Goes to the Art House panel. So that is going to be on this feed at some point. He knew I was recording that, or maybe I'll have to send him the audio. Gosh, that means I really have to clean it up, but I digress. And we'll have the 1990 for Chill panel, and we'll have the 1985 Triple Threat match. And yeah, that'll be in the future. And right now it's kind of interesting just setting up for October, because I have that Crow panel, so it's like I kind of want to set it up for Devil's Night. Fire it up to release in October. And I stated my thoughts, so maybe I'll finally get my panel I did about, and just let me go on my social to make sure I get. It's been so long since I recorded that podcast, and I say that it's probably only been a month, but you know what I mean. But I got it banked, and there we go. Yeah, getting more notifications. Let's see, Kappa. No, wrong one. There we go. And messages. Oh, shoot. I know I talked to who was it? I mean, we'll get that straightened out. I promise you that. Oh, it's in my messenger. Gotta be. Right? Right. Sorry. I know. Great content. But we will definitely have those panels. So there's 3 panels in the future on that. And let me... Come on. Dang it. No, not there. Oh, geesh. ATL. Man, maybe he got off the platform. I hope not. He was a really cool guy, and... Oh, geesh. Let me just, You know what? Let me just go and get my wits together. I'm going to put a review for... to talk about a podcast I'm going to be on in a few weeks. Jamie Ray's Fave 5 from Fans, where I get to speak about our 5 favorite Dario Argento movies, and dare I say 7. And it's an interesting conversation because he took everything into account. He took in the production, the producer credits, the screenplays, and the director. I pretty much focused on director elements, so it's going to be a good compare and contrast. It was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to get that. And a reminder, I got to go and get some stuff prepared for that promotion. But yeah, be looking out. It drops every Friday, unless it doesn't. On he does it. He loves doing YouTube. So it's like, oh great, I got to go and act visually on my Zoom, so you can get all the effects going. But fun time, and you can, as I say, 5 faves from Fans on YouTube or your favorite podcast apps. I know he's on Apple, and let me make sure I am saying that correctly. Podcast library. All right. Yes, Fave 5 from Fans with Jamie Ray. Check it out on wherever you get your podcast or YouTube. So, in preparation, I did finish all of the directing from his when his R-rated days started back with Profunda Rosa, Deep Red. I think it's Profunda Rosa. Deep Red in 75 all the way up to Dark Glasses in 2022. And of course I recorded that review. It's on Shudder right now. And right now, I guess I'd say, hey, watch it now before I regret that watch. Thanks to Jamie Ray's, Jamie Ray's Fave 5 from Fans. So I'll put that on, and I'll have the rest of my formalities ready. I'm just getting prepped for a Zoom meeting for the Fave 5 from Fans podcast with Jamie Ray, where we're going to discuss at least my 5 favorite Dario Argento movies. And no, I have not watched the Animal trilogy before he got real graphic and beautiful with the Professor Deep Red, Suspiria, and all of his Giallo R-rated stuff. But to make sure I am complete on that, I've watched Dark Glasses, a Shudder exclusive from 2022. It's interesting because this was the first time I really just saw an Argento movie in all Italian. Usually the Italians, at least when they do their dubs or their international releases, they go and shoot silently and then dub accordingly. It was an interesting experience, and I'm not saying it's a bad movie by any stretch. I've seen worse Argento. I would say that The Card Player is probably his most misunderstood, or definitely, I shouldn't say his misunderstood. He misunderstood the concept of the premise. There we go. But Dark Glasses is a pretty straightforward giallo, except we don't have the classic bait and switch. We kind of expose the killer really quickly. Say really quickly, but we don't have there's no red herrings here. So what you expect is what you're going to get. It's a story of Diana, a prostitute who is the next target of a serial killer who's killing sex workers. And while she's trying to escape from him, he bashes into the back of her car, sending her into a Chinese family, and the mother's left in a coma, the father is killed instantly, but the 7-year-old son is safe. As for her damage, the whiplash action sent a hemorrhage to her cerebral cortex, so she's gone blind. And it doesn't look like she's going to recover. But fortunately, the state has sent Rita, played by Asia Argento, the daughter of Dario, and she actually found this script and wanted to make it. And that's what brought her dad back after 10 years removed from Dracula 3D, which I thought was a lot of fun, but to call it a good movie is quite the stretch. Rita is helping her. She arranges to find her a seeing eye dog. Next thing on her agenda is to make good with the kid she may have orphaned. And because she stood up for him, he decides he's just going to stay in her custody, regardless of what the nuns say. He's going to do his best to help her out. But soon, the killer in his white panel van is back on the loose and wants to finish the job. So that becomes the cat and mouse game. And I think it doesn't really take time to have fun, I suppose. It's very much bang, let's get to the next scene, get to the next scene, get to the next scene. But of course, Argento's not known as a great writer of screenplays. I would say his Three Mothers trilogy would be the exception, maybe Tenebra. And I don't know. I say that, and then if he gets to go real fantastical, it doesn't really matter if everything is just point A to point B. Here, so we have a blind woman and a kid running away from a serial killer. And we don't really get too many twists. And we don't really get too many graphic kills. It's not the beauty of the opening murders from Suspiria. Despite it does have a great opening to build suspense. It's during one of the eclipses we've recently had. and it kind of foreshadows what's going to happen. But when you have everybody looking up to the sky and our protagonist, Deanna, just wondering what's going on, and does the Donald Trump, sadly, and she pays for it. It shows that he's still got some creative juices left. So I'm happy to see that. I'm happy with the product. But as I say, it's nothing exceptional. There are some great mise en scène, but we don't get the graphic violence to fully fill the screen. And I would say I've seen better use of dogs attacking blind people in, say, Suspiria or the Beyond, a Lucio Fulci movie from the early 80s. And, I just wanted something to really pop out. We get a good garrote scene, and otherwise it's pretty tame for Dario Argento. I mean, if, I didn't officially find out, I never really wondered what FU in Italian was, so I didn't really connect that to what it is from the Boondock Saints movies, but now I know. So I can't say, as I say, it's one for the fans, and I even liked Giallo. Adrian Brody was kind of a dick for holding that up. You went to Italy to work for Argento. The pay is kind of secondary. So that's what I think. This is this is just a legendary director you want to jam with. And, you're not going to necessarily create a banger album from, dare I say. But if you are a fan, this isn't going to really... I don't think this is going to disappoint you. It's just good to see him working. So, Dark Glasses.
Your cable TV is experiencing difficulties. Please do not panic. Resist the temptation to read or talk to loved ones. Do not attempt sexual relations, as years of TV radiation have left your genitals withered and useless.
Well, I'll be damned.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that review for Dark Glasses from Dario Argento. And I got my... since I'm talking about trying to get the Crow panel podcast done at the end of October for Devil's Night, I suppose I should just let the cat out of the bag. I recorded the podcast with Chuck from the Atlanta Film Chat podcast, where we discuss Best of the Best. And it was a lot of fun having a conversation about a movie I thought that was just essentially over the top all over again, with Eric Roberts and James Earl Jones. But it turns out to, you have the right people to watch it with. It really is a lot more fun than I got a lot more out of it just doing the podcast. So thanks for that suggestion, Chuck, and we'll get that podcast out soon. So I know I like to do horror themes come October, and really kind of compressing, getting everything pushed together. So I think I will make an exception for Best of the Best. I mean, it's got Kane Hodder in it, so that's kind of horror adjacent. So that'll be out in out soon. I mean, all my other Atlanta panels, it's talking about getting to. I mentioned I'm doing the Crow one. He just happened to really get excited about it when we did that recording, so I was holding off on it. But we'll have the ATL Film Chat podcast on in a few weeks. I'm gonna try getting through the remainder of what I've done with GalaxyCon Des Moines. So, and then, hey, if I get to work at GalaxyCon St. Louis, then I think October might be shot for horror, but we will fire it up with the Crow panel by the end of the month, I promise you that. So, that's the future of I Dig Crazy Flicks at the moment. Thank you very much for listening. If you want to help the podcast out, rate and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. 5-star reviews, preferably. Be as honest as you'd like in the comments. I promise I will learn from them. I've got a lot of family right now thinking, oh, he's not going to learn from his mistakes. And I don't know, maybe they have an argument. But that's family stuff. Podcast stuff, that's the stuff I really care about. No offense to my family on that one. But, this is going to be around as long as I'm around, I hope. So, and, oh, great, some nihilism from fleeting stuff. But again, rate and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. 5 stars, please. Honesty is greatly appreciated. And, share it with your friends, of course. Another way to help the podcast out, and probably the most fun way to do it, is come and be a guest on the show. All you need is to offer me a film, a director, an actor, a theme. As long as we try to focus on movies that are bonkers, a little out of the world, off the wall, or if a film is between 70 and 100 minutes, the classic 90 for chill, I'll be happy to chat about it. Just send an email to rustthebus07@gmail.com. That's RUSSTHEBUS07@gmail.com. Or you can follow me on my social medias. That's @CatBusRust, primarily on Blue Sky. But you can also find me post on Instagram and Threads. I have not checked Threads in a while, though, because that's usually just me posting on Instagram. So, sorry, but I'm just not... I don't see the point of supporting Meta, especially when I have to, go to so many hoops to promote my Good Pods feed for I Dig Crazy Flicks. So... otherwise, it was fun talking about Skimble earlier. I miss him, and I hope that he was the fluffiest of fellows. Skimble Shanks, the one-eared angel, the most jellicle of kitties, and I hope that Stacia Marie Harden is just squeezing the ectoplasm out of him, and I hope she's helping everybody she touched in her life. And, my tough times right now, I still see that picture of her by my bed, and I feel, I will feel a little bit better. So thank you for looking out after me, Stacia. And again, hope you're doing that for everybody else you touched in your life. So, so we'll get to the I Dig Crazy Flicks panel, I'd say, next week. And then I guess we got to do any horror I have and the best of the best to start October up. So... thanks for listening to I Dig Crazy Flicks with Catbus Russ, and have yourselves a good week.
Can I hear a wahoo?
This podcast was made possible by the love and support of Dave and Cindy Stevens, Rory Stevens and Allison Higgins, Danny Daniels, and Stephanie Smith.
Long live Flash! You've saved your Earth. Have a nice day.